The dust devils of Rattlesnake Ridge never ceased their lament. It wailed across the scorched plains like a prophet's warning, unheard by the hardened folk of Dust Devil Gulch. Fences lay toppled. Waterholes had long since dried. The Crimson Creek, once the valley's lifeblood, was now a serpentine crack of sun-baked mud and ancient river stones. People did not speak of hope anymore. They spoke of surviving one more week. When the midnight Mustang appeared at the edge of Dust Devil Gulch, even the wind seemed to hush. Women hurried children inside. Shopkeepers retreated from their storefronts. Men stood rigid in the street, but no hands sought holstered pistols. They knew it would be futile. Augustus Thorne had arrived. He wasn't merely large. He was forged like the very bluffs themselves, tall and broad, with shoulders that eclipsed the sun and a jawline that could have been chiseled from granite. His battered duster coat, faded and stained, clung to him like dried rust. His eyes, pale and distant, held the emptiness of one who had witnessed too much and felt too little. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply rode down the main street of Dust Devil Gulch as if he owned it. Because, in a grim sense, he did. Behind every dry waterhole, one name loomed: Jedediah Stone. Stone owned the dam miles upstream. Stone controlled the water, and Gus Thorne was the iron hand that enforced his will. From a second-story window of the Pilgrim's Rest Church, Elara Vance watched him. Her fingers pressed against the cold glass, her breath misting the pain. She did not look away. Elara was 32 years old. Her auburn hair, the color of mesa clay, was always drawn back, neat and practical. Her dresses were simple, muted, modest. Her father ensured it. She was known in town as the preacher's daughter, quiet, pure, untouched. But her emerald eyes held a flicker of something fierce. Behind her, her father, Father Josiah Vance, sat at his desk, his worn leather-bound scriptures open, his shoulders stooped with years of bowing to fear. "Elara," he murmured, not lifting his head. "Close the curtain." "He's heading toward the O'Malley homestead," she replied. "That is not our concern." She turned slowly. "It is everyone's concern," her father swallowed. "We must not invite trouble into this house." Elara looked back out the window, just as Gus dismounted. Old Mr. O'Malley stepped onto his porch, his hands trembling. His wife stood behind him, clutching her apron. There were no raised voices, no drawn guns. Gus spoke low. Calm. Final. Within minutes, two of Stone's hired hands were leading the O'Malley's last 2 mules away. "Mister." O'Malley tried to protest. Gus shoved him once, not hard, but hard enough to send the old man collapsing against his own doorframe. Then, as Gus walked to the rain barrel beside the house, he tipped it. The meager water they had saved spilled into the dust. Elara felt her chest burn. When Gus mounted midnight again, his gaze lifted. It found her in the church window. For a long moment, they stared at one another. There was no cruelty in his face, no pleasure, only something cold and deeply buried. Elara did not step back. The wind returned. "He is evil," her father whispered behind her. Elara shook her head. "He is a man, a dangerous one." She watched until he rode away. "Then someone should remind him of that," she murmured. The next morning, half the town was hitching wagons. Deputy Wyatt Finch stood outside the Frontier Mercantile, his tarnished badge catching the weak sunlight. He was young, too young. His hands looked unsure, even resting at his sides. Elara approached him. "They took everything," she said. "The O'Malleys are leaving tonight." Wyatt's jaw tightened. "What do you expect me to do?" "You are the law." He let out a sharp breath. "Against Stone, against Thorne? I am one man." Elara stepped closer. "Then be one man who stands." Wyatt looked at her like he wanted to believe her. "If you keep challenging them," he warned quietly, "they will come for this church next." Elara lifted her chin. "Let them." 2 days later, Gus returned. This time he came alone. He tied midnight outside the Longhorn Saloon and walked in without a word. The town froze again. Elara stood at the church steps, handing out the last of their dried beans to a hungry mother and child. Her heartbeat was so loud she could hear it in her ears, but before she could think herself out of it, she crossed the street. Gasps followed her. She pushed open the saloon doors. Every conversation died. Gus stood at the bar, massive hands wrapped around a glass of rye whiskey. The bartender stared at the floor. Alara stepped forward. Mr. Thorne. Gus did not turn right away. He finished his drink, then slowly faced her. Up close, he was even larger. His shadow swallowed her small frame. You should not be here, he said in a deep, steady voice. I'm Alara Vance, she replied. Father Vance's daughter. I know who you are. Then you know this town is starving. Gus's expression did not change. That is not my concern. It should be. He leaned slightly closer. Go home. You serve a man who is choking this valley. I serve the man who owns it. Alara's hands trembled, but she did not step back. You are stealing from families who have done nothing wrong. Gus's jaw tightened. They owe. They owe because he made them owe. The room felt heavy. For a flicker of a second, something passed through Gus's eyes. Pain. Then it vanished. You are playing with fire, he warned. Maybe someone needs to. Gus set his glass down. Go home, Alara. Or what? His voice dropped lower. Or I forget you were a preacher's daughter. The words sent a chill through her, but she held his gaze. There is still good in you, she said softly. Gus's face hardened like stone. You are mistaken. She left the saloon with her legs shaking, but her spirit burning hotter than ever. That night, Dust Devil Gulch did not sleep easy, and neither did Alara. Every creak of the church walls made her jump. Every gust of wind sounded like boots on the porch. Her father paced, whispering prayers under his breath. Child, he said finally, you have stirred something. Good, she answered. The knock came the following evening. It was not loud. It was steady. Alara's stomach dropped. Her father froze again. The knock. Father Vance. Gus's deep voice called through the door. By order of Jedediah Stone, this property is being claimed for unpaid debt. Alara felt her father's hand tremble against her arm. We have nothing left, he whispered. Gus spoke again. Open the door. Alara stepped forward before her father could move. You will not take this house. Her father looked at her in shock. As the third knock cracked the frame. Open it, Gus warned. Alara grabbed the iron poker from the fireplace. The door burst inward under one powerful kick. Gus filled the doorway like a storm. Dust swirled around his boots. Move, he said. You will not touch this church. I am not here for the church. Then leave. He stepped inside anyway. Alara raised the poker, though her hands shook violently. Gus looked at her weapon, then at her. You cannot stop me. Try me. For a moment, they simply stared at one another. Then he moved forward to push past her. Fear surged through her chest. Don't come inside, she breathed. Please don't cross this line. The words left her without thinking, raw, desperate. Gus Bauset. Something in her voice hit him hard. His jaw clenched. I have orders. He gently but firmly took the poker from her grip and set it aside. He did not hurt her. He simply began removing furniture. Chairs, tables, her mother's old spinning wheel. Each item carried out like it meant nothing. Alara followed him outside, tears burning her eyes. You are tearing apart people who have already lost everything. He did not answer. When he stepped back toward the doorway again, she blocked him once more. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. Don't come inside again. There is nothing left to take. Gus looked down at her. Up close, she could see a scar running along his collarbone, a faded bruise near his jaw, old wounds that told stories no one asked about. You should not have challenged me, he said quietly. Maybe you should not have listened to him. For a heartbeat, his expression shifted. Then heavy hoofbeats echoed from the road. Stone's riders approached. Gus glanced toward them, then back at Alara. You have made this worse, he murmured. Stone himself rode into view, thin and sharp-eyed, his smile cold as winter's bite. Well done, Thorne, Stone called. Clear it out. Gus did not move. Stone's gaze shifted to Alara. So, this is the preacher's girl who thinks she is brave. Alara stepped closer to Gus without meaning to. Stone smirked. Finish it. Gus stood still. The wind screamed louder, but Alara felt her heart pounding against her ribs. She looked up at the giant cowboy. Don't, she whispered. And for the first time, Augustus Thorne looked like a man caught between chains and something far more dangerous. Choice. Stone's smile faded when Gus did not move. The riders behind him shifted in their saddles. The town watched from doorways and windows, silent and afraid. "I gave you an order," Stone said calmly. Gus kept his eyes on Alara. She could feel the heat of him beside her, the tension in his body, the war happening behind those pale eyes. "Finish it," Stone repeated. Gus finally stepped forward. Alara's breath caught. He walked past her, not toward her father, toward the church doors. He placed his massive hand against the wood. Then he pushed them closed instead of open, and the sound echoed across the street. Stone's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" Gus turned slowly. "They have nothing left. That is not your concern." Gus's jaw flexed. "The debt is paid in full. They will leave by morning." Alara felt the world tilt. Stone let out a soft laugh that held no humor. "Since when do you decide what is paid?" Gus stepped down from the porch. He stood tall, but there was something different in the way he held himself now. Less like a weapon, more like a wall. "They leave by morning," he repeated. Stone studied him for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to Alara. "Interesting," he murmured. "Very interesting." He tipped his hat slightly. "One night, Father, at sunrise, I expect this property empty." With that, he turned his horse and rode off, his men following. The town slowly exhaled. Alara's knees felt weak. Her father stepped outside, pale and shaken. "You defied him," he whispered to Gus. Gus did not look at him. He looked at Alara. "You have until sunrise," he said quietly. "After that, I cannot protect you." "Why?" she asked. He hesitated. Then he walked away without answering. That night, the church was heavy with silence. Candles burned low. Boxes were half-packed. Father Josiah Vance sat in the front pew, face buried in his hands. Alara stood near the altar, staring at the wooden cross hanging above it. "You should not have angered Stone," her father said softly. "He is already angry," she replied. "He owns the water. He owns this land. Then why are you so afraid of him?" Her father's shoulders shook. "There are things you do not know," he whispered, but Alara turned toward him. "Then tell me." He lifted his head slowly. "I owe him more than money." Her stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" Years ago, during a brutal winter, her mother had fallen ill. Medicine cost more than they had. Stone had offered help, a loan, generous terms, but nothing Stone offered was ever generous. When her mother died anyway, the debt remained, and Stone had returned, not asking for money, but obedience. Her father had signed papers he never read fully. Land agreements, water access rights, clauses buried in pages of legal words. The church land, and his position as the town's informal record keeper, had slowly become Stone's leverage over the town. "You gave him power over everyone," Alara whispered. "I was trying to save your mother. And now you are letting him destroy us." Her father wept quietly. Alara felt anger and sorrow twist inside her chest. After midnight, there was another knock. Not loud, not forceful, just one. Alara's heart jumped. She opened the church door before her father could stop her. Gus stood there alone. Moonlight cut across his face, making him look carved from shadow. "You should not be here," she said. "You should not have spoken to Stone like that," he replied. "Yet here you are." He stepped inside slowly. The church felt smaller with him in it. Her father rose from the pew. "We are leaving at dawn." "You should leave tonight," Gus said. "And go where?" Alara asked. "Every well belongs to him." Gus did not answer. He walked down the aisle, boots echoing softly. Alara followed. "You stood against him," she said. "Why?" He stopped near the altar. "I was not always his man," he said quietly. She waited. 8 years ago, I worked the rail crossings north of here. Stone shipments moved through that route. One night, a wagon burned. 2 men died. Alara's breath slowed. Stone said I was responsible. Said my carelessness cost him. He had witnesses, papers. He offered me a choice, prison or work off the debt. And you believed him? I believed I had no other path. Alara stepped closer. And now? Gus looked at the cross above the altar. Now I'm not sure the debt was ever real. Silence filled the space between them. "You are stronger than him," she said. He let out a low breath. "Strength is not the same as freedom." Her heart beat faster. "Then take your freedom." He looked down at her. You do not understand what Stone will do. Then let him try. Gus's hand reached out without thinking. It brushed her wrist. The touch sent a sharp wave through her body. She did not step back. His fingers were rough, warm, careful. He seemed to realize what he had done and quickly pulled away. You should fear me, he said. I do not. You should. I do not. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. The air between them felt charged, heavy, too close. Alara, he said softly, almost like a warning. She stepped nearer, anyway. You are not his weapon, she whispered. He swallowed. You do not know what I have done. Then change what you will do. Her hand lifted slowly. It touched his chest. She could feel his heart beating beneath his shirt, fast, hard. His breath grew uneven. This is wrong, he said. Is it? You are the preacher's daughter, and you are not a monster. The words hung between them. He closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, something had shifted. Desire, fear, hunger, conflict all at once. Alara, he said again, voice rougher now. She stepped even closer, her body almost against his massive frame. Don't come inside me, she whispered suddenly, not even fully understanding why she said it. Don't cross that line. The words were soft, honest, fragile. Gus froze. His hands hovered at her waist. The church was silent except for their breathing. He looked down at her like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. If I cross it, he said quietly, there is no turning back. Her heart pounded so loud she thought it might burst. Then do not cross it, she said. But she did not step away. And neither did he. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. Storm clouds gathered over Dust Devil Gulch. Inside the small wooden church, Alara felt the world narrowing to the space between her and the giant cowboy. Gus's hand moved to her cheek. Gentle, careful. His thumb brushed her skin like he feared she might break. You deserve better than me, he said. Then become better. His jaw tightened. The war inside him raged again. Duty, desire, guilt, hope. Finally, he stepped back. Just one step, but it felt like miles. You leave tonight, he said. I will hold Stone off as long as I can. And you? I settle my debt. Before she could answer, gunshots cracked outside. Both of them turned toward the door. Voices shouted. Stone had not waited for sunrise. Gus's face hardened instantly. Stay inside, he ordered. He drew his revolver. Alara grabbed his arm. Do not die for him. I am not, he said. Then he stepped out into the storm. Gunfire split the night like tearing cloth. Alara ran to the church doorway despite Gus's command. Rain had begun to fall, cold and sharp, turning the dirt street into mud beneath the pounding hooves of Stone's riders. Lantern light flickered wildly. Shadows jumped across buildings. Gus stood in the middle of the street alone. He did not hide behind barrels. He did not duck for cover. He stood tall, revolver steady, like a wall planted between Stone and the church. Stone rode forward through the rain, his coat slick against his thin frame, eyes burning with fury. You forget your place, Stone shouted. Gus fired first. One of Stone's men dropped from his saddle. Chaos erupted. Deputy Wyatt Finch burst from the frontier mercantile with his rifle. Two miners followed him. Then another man, then another. Dust Devil Gulch had been afraid for years. But fear, when pushed too far, becomes anger. And tonight, anger had teeth. Alara watched through the rain as Gus moved like a storm given flesh. He did not waste bullets. He did not hesitate. Every shot was clean, every movement purposeful. Stone aimed straight for him. The bullet struck Gus high in the shoulder. Alara screamed. He staggered, but did not fall. Instead, he charged, and he slammed into Stone's horse, dragging the man from the saddle. They hit the mud hard. Stone scrambled for his pistol. But Gus was faster. He pinned Stone down, one massive hand at his collar. It was never a debt, Gus growled. You made me believe it. Stone spat blood and rain. You were nothing before me. Gus's jaw tightened. I was a man. Stone reached again for his gun. Another shot rang out. Deputy Wyatt had fired. The pistol flew from Stone's hand. Gus rose slowly, blood soaking his shirt, rain mixing with it and running down his chest. Stone tried to crawl away. The townspeople surrounded him. For the first time in years, Jedediah Stone looked small. Wyatt stepped forward and kicked Stone onto his back. "You are under arrest." Stone laughed weakly. "You think this changes anything? The water still belongs to me." "It does not," a voice answered. Alara's father stepped into the rain, clutching a stack of papers above his head. "In your hurry to control us," Father Vance shouted, "you forgot that copies of every contract were filed with the county." Alara stared at him. Her father's voice no longer trembled. "The clauses are illegal," he continued. "The dam is under dispute. The land was never truly yours." Stone's face drained of color. "You signed it," Stone hissed. "I signed under threat," the preacher said. "And tonight I confess it before this town." Silence fell except for the rain. Wyatt pulled Stone to his feet and snapped iron cuffs around his wrists. The riders who remained threw down their weapons. It was over. Alara ran through the mud to Gus. He was on one knee now, breathing hard, the blood still seeping from his wound. She dropped beside him. "You are hurt," she whispered. "It will hold," he answered, though his voice was weak. She pressed her hands against his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. "You could have left," she said. "You could have ridden away." He looked at her through rain-soaked lashes. "And let him take you." Her breath caught. The storm softened around them. Wyatt and the townspeople dragged Stone toward the jail. Lanterns glowed warmer now. Faces looked different, lighter. Alara helped Gus to his feet. He swayed, but he did not fall. Inside the church, she guided him to the front pew. Her father brought clean cloth and water. For the first time, the preacher looked directly at the giant cowboy. "You stood for us," he said quietly. Gus met his gaze. "I stood for myself." Alara cleaned the wound carefully. He winced, but did not complain. "You said crossing that line meant no turning back," she murmured. He studied her face. "And I crossed it," he said. "You chose," she corrected. He gave a faint, tired smile. Outside, the rain grew steady and strong. It poured over Dust Devil Gulch, soaking the thirsty earth. By morning, the dust that had covered the town for years had settled into clean mud. The Crimson Creek upstream swelled against the dam. County officials arrived 3 days later. Stone's contracts were declared void. The dam was seized. Water rights returned to the valley. Men worked together to open the gates. When the first rush of water flowed freely down the riverbed again, people wept openly. Dust Devil Gulch breathed for the first time in years. Gus healed slowly. The bullet had missed bone, but the wound ran deep. Alara visited him every day in the small room above the Longhorn Saloon where he stayed while recovering. She brought broth, clean bandages, quiet company. The town no longer looked at him with fear. They nodded when he passed. Some even thanked him, but he still carried guilt in his eyes. One evening, as the sun dipped low over green fields that were beginning to show life again, he stood outside the church. Alara joined him. The air smelled fresh, clean. "You could leave now," she said gently. "No one would stop you." He looked out over the valley. "I thought freedom would feel louder," he admitted. She smiled softly. "Sometimes it feels quiet." He turned to her. "I nearly became the monster he wanted. But you did not. I hurt people. You saved more." He studied her face like he was memorizing it. "I do not deserve you," he said. She stepped closer. "This is not about deserving," she answered. "It is about choosing." He reached for her slowly this time, not with hunger, not with conflict, but with certainty. His hand rested at her waist, her heartbeat steady, not frantic. "Do you still fear I will cross lines I should not?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "No, and if I do, then it will be because I walk there with you." The wind moved softly around them. No dust, no screams, just peace. He bent his head and kissed her gently. Not rushed, not stolen. Chosen. Months later, Dust Devil Gulch changed its name. The townspeople voted together in the church. They called it Clear River. The fields turned green again. Waterholes filled. Children played in the street without fear. Deputy Wyatt became sheriff. Father Vance preached with a stronger voice. And Augustus Thorne no longer rode into town as a threat. He rode beside Alara on quiet evenings, teaching boys how to mend fences and helping farmers rebuild barns he once tore down. On a small hill behind the church, they built a new wooden sign. It did not carry Stone's name. It carried the towns. Alara stood beside Gus as he hammered the last nail in place. She looked up at him. You once said strength is not freedom. He nodded. I was wrong, he said softly. Strength is choosing who you stand for. She slipped her hand into his. And who do you stand for now? He looked at her. For you. For this town. For myself. The Crimson Creek flowed strong behind them. The wind no longer screamed. And the giant cowboy who once carried chains finally learned how to carry love instead.